Now, the burgeoning food delivery business was one of the biggest winners during the lockdown. With all of us spending long periods at home, getting a hot meal delivered to your door was a real treat. But there is trouble in the land of Uber Eats. Drivers claim they're being exploited. Now, over the weekend, Gauteng drivers refused to deliver orders. I'm joined now by Duane Bernard, who represents the Uber Eats drivers. Good evening, Duane. Thank you very much for your time. So I understand that you use your own vehicles, your own petrol, your own airtime to deliver and contact customers. Explain to us what Uber Eats gives you, how much they give you, and why you're feeling exploited.
Hi, Sally. Good evening to you and the listeners. Thanks for this opportunity. Sally, as driver partners, we are basically the courier company for Uber Eats. So as driver partners, we're not employed by Uber Eats at all. We simply sign contracts that state that we will be used on a contract basis, if I can put it that way. Uber Eats has recently been making decisions, well, not recently, since they've started. They decide what they pay driver partners without consulting driver partners. They decide when they're going to drop fees without consulting driver partners. And all this we found to be extremely unfair on their side. As soon as Uber Eats decides that rates are going to go down for drivers, they just drop the rates for drivers. As soon as they decide they're going to give boosts or incentives, they just do it. There's nothing in writing between us and Uber Eats as partners. We feel as partners it's meant to be a discussion between two, especially when it comes to money. You need to discuss with your partner what you're going to offer. So this was where the strike started. We've got many other grievances, but this was the main thing, Sally, that we're taking up with them.
Explain to us, so it's an interesting relationship, as you've explained, because you're not employed by them.
Yes.
But at the same time, it's a contract. So every time you change a contract, it should ideally be renegotiated. So talk to us about how rates dropped, by how much, why rates dropped.
Okay. Perfect. Uber Eats thinks we're ignorant and we don't know, but I'll tell you what they've done. Uber Eats charges restaurants, or they used to charge restaurants, 5% per meal per delivery, which the restaurant had to pay. Uber Eats then dropped that rate for restaurants from 5% to 9 Rand capped fee, or 9.99 Rand, I stand to correction, for each delivery. So what they've done now is they've dropped the driver's rates down to 4 Rand a kilometer for a delivery, to cover up for the fact that they're not charging the restaurant anymore.
Okay, so so they've got a sort of a relationship with you and with the restaurants. Is this because you think that the restaurants, who we know have had a horrific year, are putting pressure on Uber Eats, and they've actually had no real choice but to change it?
Yes, definitely. Restaurants have been putting a lot of pressure on them for a long time. Uber Eats knows that they need to keep restaurants happy. Customers are being kept happy by Uber Eats, which is great. They're giving customers good rates. They're giving customers good discounts. So our fight is that why do we have to suffer as the guys who are doing the risky work, which is jumping on a motorbike in any weather, whether it's rain, whether it's shine, collecting food and making sure our customers get the food? Why do we need to take the hit and lower our rate? Why does Uber Eats not take the hit on their profit margins that they're making?
How much money are they making?
So those are our fights
big,
with them.
Yeah, sure, I hear you. And how big are their profit margins?
Whoa, I think they boasted, I stand to correction, I think they boasted something like 30 billion last year, if I'm not mistaken.
And this was globally?
That's US. Right. Globally, USD,
and,
yes.
And this is the other thing. So who do you negotiate with in South Africa in terms of Uber Eats? Is there a forum where you can talk about things? Have they responded to what you did over the weekend, which was just not delivering, I understand?
Okay. So how they work, they've closed all their offices in South Africa. As far as we know, we cannot go into any Uber Eats office anymore. They used to call them green hubs. All the green hubs have been closed since lockdown. So we have no face-to-face contact with anyone at Uber Eats. They've responded with a message telling each driver, they react with us via our driver apps. And they've responded saying that they're going to engage with drivers over the next few weeks to discuss our grievances, which we're not agreeing with at all, Sally. We've given them until Wednesday to see to our grievances. And as drivers, we've got a group of leaders who are sitting and discussing ways forward. And we've come up that if they do not give us what we want by Wednesday, on the 22nd of January, all drivers nationwide, we're calling on all drivers nationwide to go on a strike until we get what we want.
Am I right?
It's going to harm Uber Eats.
Absolutely, it will. Am I right that you're not actually asking for an increase? You're asking for things to go back to the way they were. Am I right?
That's it. Sally, we're asking for a base rate. Uber, we don't know what we earn. I've got screenshots that guys have sent me today where one driver, I'll give you an example. One driver did a 2-kilometer trip. He got paid 23 Rand. Another driver did a 3,8, almost 4-kilometer trip. He got paid 23 Rand in the same area. So we don't know what the base rate is. They tell us you're getting 4 Rand a kilometer, but when they pay you per trip, it's totally different all the time. We don't want that anymore. We want a set base rate, which we set out for them in our memorandum that we sent to them, so that we know wherever you work in South Africa, if you're an Uber Eats driver, if you do a 10-kilometer trip, you're going to get X amount. Are you with me?
Yeah,
which we don't currently have. We don't currently have with them. So we want that. That's number one that we want by Wednesday. And like I said, if we don't get that, 22nd of January, we're shutting Uber Eats down until they give us what we want.
Well, thank you very much for explaining it all so very clearly for us. That was Duane Bernard. He represents Uber Eats drivers. He's explaining the relationship between Uber Eats, the restaurants, and the drivers, highlighting that they're not asking for an increase. They're just asking for things to go back the way they were when they originally signed contracts.